You know,
Just a straight line.
exactly. You run faster, you break the tape, and the crowd goes wild.
Right.
But when you really dive into the history of women's sports, these athletes weren't just running toward a finish line. I mean, they were sprinting on a track that was actively being paved while they were running on it.
Oh, absolutely. It is the absolute definition of having to build the arena before you were even allowed to play in it. And, you are dealing with massive institutional hurdles that have absolutely nothing to do with the game itself.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive. For you listening right now, we are looking at a massive stack of sources today. We've got biographies, sports science databases, Wikipedia pages, historical archives, all to figure out who the ultimate game changers were in women's sports.
Yeah, we've got a lot of ground to cover.
We really do. And per your request, we are going to look at the sport by sport. So for every single one, we want to uncover what the major change was, the mechanics of exactly why and how that change happened, and, how it completely rewrote the rules for the young female athletes of today. Okay, let's unpack this.
To set the stage here, and for you listening, just imagine the backdrop behind us shifting to a massive, roaring stadium montage. We have to understand that these aren't just athletes who won shiny medals.
Right.
These are pioneers who demanded visibility. They forced the creation of professional leagues. And honestly, they changed the actual biomechanical understanding of what the female body can even do.
So legs were just flawless.
Yes, completely flawless.
Which, perfectly sets the stage for Florence Griffith Joyner.
Flo-Jo, the absolute legend.
Right. I mean, we all know she has the records.
Yeah.
Looking at these databases, she shattered the 100-meter record in 1988 with a time of 10.49 seconds and the 200-meter with 21.34 seconds. And those records still stand decades later.
Which is insane to think about.
It really is. But what's actually fascinating is the how. She didn't just, run more sprints. She completely changed the physiological approach to female track training. She started working with her husband, Al Joyner, and they integrated heavy lower body strength training. We're talking heavy squats, lunges, pure powerlifting.
Right, and we have to simplify the science here for a second, because traditionally, female runners were told to focus on endurance and staying lean. Like, don't get too bulky.
You hit light, yeah.
Exactly. But Flo-Jo's weightlifting regimen fundamentally shifted her muscle composition to maximize fast-twitch muscle fibers. And those are the fibers that give you that explosive, immediate power. She literally changed the mechanical blueprint for how female sprinters trained.
And she did it with so much style. I mean, she wore those iconic one-legger tracksuits and had those 6-inch beautifully painted nails.
Oh, nails are iconic.
It's like dropping a massive roaring V8 engine into a car, but giving it a custom glamorous paint job. You use style as self-expression, but it's also psychological intimidation.
Oh, for sure.
You line up next to her, she looks invincible, and you know she's out squatting half the gym. The impact on youth here is immense. Flo-Jo and Rudolph taught young girls a vital lesson. Extreme, raw, athletic power and unapologetic glamour are not mutual.
Specifically, Katie Ledecky.
Oh man, Katie Ledecky.
Right. At just 15 years old, she won gold at the 2012 London Olympics. She went on to win 18 individual world championship golds, and she holds the 800-meter and 1,500-meter world records. But the change she brought wasn't just winning, it was how she literally moved through the water.
Exactly, and the biomechanics of her stroke are just wild to watch because historically, female distance swimmers relied on a very smooth, symmetrical stroke to conserve energy over long distances.
The glide.
Yeah, the glide. But Ledecky brought a male pattern pacing strategy to female distance swimming. She uses what is called a loping stroke. It's almost asymmetrical. She breathes to one side, creates a massive surge of power, and just rides that momentum. It's relentlessly aggressive.
Relentless is the perfect word. She doesn't conserve energy. She attacks the water with a high stroke rate from the very first lap. I mean, she was often finishing so far ahead of the competition that she was in the television frame completely alone.
Which is just crazy at the Olympic level.
It really is. And the impact on young swimmers is profound. Ledecky raised the entire global standard of endurance. She proved to young girls that there is absolutely no arbitrary biological limit to a woman's stamina.
Yeah.
You don't have to pace yourself to survive the race. You can sprint the marathon.
I love that. You can sprint the marathon.
Yeah.
Now, while the track and the pool showed what the female body could do, the court showed what the female wallet could demand.
Direct line of economic and social advocacy. It starts with Billie Jean King taking on the battle of the sexes and co-founding the Women's Tennis Association to fight for equal prize money.
Right.
And then that baton was passed to Venus Williams, who led the charge to finally get equal pay at Wimbledon in the 2000s. And then Serena Williams redefined the sport again, bringing unprecedented baseline power, winning 23 Grand Slams, all while fiercely advocating for maternity rights.
Yeah.
And, the change only happened because these women forced the issue. They threatened boycotts and built their own associations.
Well, I have to push back on that a little bit, though, or at least challenge the idea that it was purely a moral victory where they just, forced the issue through threats alone. When you look at the archives, wasn't the creation of the WTA and the push for equal pay also driven by basic market economics?
Okay, that's fair.
Because by the time Venus Williams was fighting Wimbledon, women's tennis finals were often pulling higher television ratings than the men's final.
They absolutely were.
Sponsors realized they were leaving money on the table. The athletic reality was undeniable, but they had the financial leverage of a massive audience to back up their demands.
What's fascinating here is that you are entirely right. The delay in equal pay was about entrenched institutional bias. It was old boys clubs using outdated arguments about men playing 5 sets to justify the pay gap.
Exactly.
But the women used their undeniable market value as the ultimate leverage. And the impact of that fight on today's youth is entirely structural. Because of King and the Williams sisters, equal pay at major tournaments is a reality today.
It's the norm.
Yeah. Young stars today like Kogo Gauff and Naomi Osaka, they operate as complete business entities. They grew up in a world where it is entirely normal to advocate for themselves, to demand their worth from sponsors, and to protect their mental space.
Let's carry that idea of building a viable business over to team sports. Let's look at basketball. Because Lisa Leslie, who threw down the very first dunk in the WNBA, mechanically showing that verticality legitimized the sheer athleticism of the league to a lot of traditional doubters. And then you bring in Diana Taurasi.
Oh man, Taurasi's numbers are just staggering. She led USA Basketball to an unprecedented 61-game winning streak.
61 games.
We were talking about 6 Olympic gold medals. Her overall record playing for the U.S. is 92 wins and 4 losses. Plus, she became the WNBA's all-time leading scorer.
Unbelievable.
And the why behind this is her basketball IQ and a highly aggressive physical style of play that really mirrored the intensity of the men's game. She forced defenders to guard her the moment she crossed half court.
Looking at Taurasi's winning streak, it seems to me she didn't just win games. She was essentially the financial proof of concept for the entire WNBA. Before her generation, playing pro basketball often meant going overseas and playing in obscurity.
Yeah, in Russia or somewhere, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how does that change the landscape for the kids watching today?
It means players like I.G. Wilson are stepping into a league that is now an established cultural force, not a fragile experiment. Taurasi's sheer dominance forced the creation of a heavily watched, sustainable professional pathway.
It's incredible. Now, as these professional leagues grew, women started crossing over into heavily male-dominated spaces. And in the process, they...
Ice hockey.
Hayley Wickenheiser. The change she brought was proving that a woman's elite skill could translate directly into a men's professional league.
Right.
Not only did she win 4 Olympic gold medals for Canada, but she became the first woman to play full-time professional men's hockey in a position other than goalie. She played in Sweden's 3rd men's league.
But how does she actually survive in a men's checking league where the physical mass of the opponents is just biologically larger? How does that work?
The how is all about spatial awareness and elite hockey sense. She couldn't rely on pure physical mass to check players off the puck, so she had to process the game faster.
Oh, I see. Yeah, she used superior edge work, anticipation, and passing lanes to outsmart opponents rather than outmuscle them.
And the impact on the youth is brilliant. First, she founded WickFest, giving young girls all over the world a pipeline to develop their skills. But secondly, she went on to become a medical doctor.
Which is amazing.
Right. She showed young athletes that your brain is just as important as your body, and there is a massive, impactful. Yes. She won X Games gold at 14 and Olympic gold at 17. Looking at the technical data, she was the very first woman to land a cab double cork 1080 in a half-pipe competition.
Okay, we need to break that down.
Yeah, for you listening, let's break down that jargon because it is insane. A cab means she is riding switch or backward, approaching the jump. Then she launches into the air, performs 2 off-axis flips, meaning she is flipping diagonally, while completing 3 full 360-degree rotations.
The physics required to achieve that are mind-bending. It requires massive amplitude, getting huge air off the lip of the pipe, and absolute core spatial awareness to spot the landing while spinning blind. She completely shattered the technical ceiling of the sport.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Following her massive success at the 2022 Beijing Olympics, Chloe Kim did something radical. She announced she was taking a mental health break.
Yeah, she was very open about that.
She was open about feeling drained. She adopted this brilliant motto, name it to tame it, using that phrase to deal with her anxiety directly by acknowledging it rather than burying it.
The impact of that on young athletes cannot be overstated. In a high-pressure Olympic environment, Kim taught an entire generation of young athletes that their human identity is worth far more than their competition scores.
It's like a pressure release valve on a steam engine. Acknowledging the anxiety doesn't kill the competitive fire, it just stops the engine from exploding under the immense pressure of the Olympics. She made it clear that prioritizing your mental health is a vital part of being a sustainable athlete.
Strength and combat sports.
Okay, let's get into it.
These are the sports that challenge the deepest, oldest stereotypes about the female body being fragile. Let's talk about weightlifting.
Hidilyn Diaz. The change she brought was winning the very first Olympic gold medal in the entire history of the Philippines in 2020. But the why, how she physically got there, is incredible. She didn't start in a high-tech biomechanics lab.
No, not at all.
She started by lifting makeshift barbells made out of concrete and mag wheels from cars. She literally washed jeepneys just to afford transportation to train.
And if you think about the mechanics of lifting concrete and car parts, those weights are inherently unbalanced.
Right.
By training with asymmetrical, improvised equipment, she actually developed incredible neuromuscular efficiency and core stability. So when she finally got her hands on a perfectly balanced Olympic barbell, her stabilizing muscles were essentially supercharged.
Wow. And her journey completely reframed how strength is viewed. The impact on the youth is that Diaz single-handedly sparked a massive growth in women's strength sports across Southeast Asia. She showed young girls that having big muscles and lifting heavy weights isn't something to hide, it is something to celebrate.
We see a similar shattering of stereotypes in boxing, too. We have Claressa Shields, who was the first American boxer to win back-to-back
technical. Looking at the fight analysis, they fundamentally changed women's boxing technique.
How so?
Well, historically, a lot of women's bouts were slower, relying on single pot shots. Shields and Taylor introduced a highly aggressive, high-volume punching style. What does that actually mean in the ring? It means instead of throwing one jab and resetting, they are throwing relentless 6-punch combinations. They overwhelm their opponents with sheer volume and cardio conditioning.
They weren't just participating, they were putting on absolute masterclasses. And the commercial results were massive. I mean, Taylor was pulling 1.5 million viewers on DAZN, and Shields was pulling massive numbers on Sky Sports.
Huge audiences.
Yeah. Now, DAZN and Sky Sports are premium global broadcasting networks. Getting headlining spots on these platforms meant they dragged women's boxing out from being a novelty sideshow and planted it firmly into the global main event.
And the impact on the youth is measurable. Because of these two women, USA Boxing reported a staggering 67% increase in female registrations between 2016 and 2024.
Wow, 67%.
Young girls are walking into boxing gyms because they finally see a pathway to be the main event.
So while combat sports challenged physical
In 2014, at just 13 years old, she became the first girl to ever pitch a shutout in the Little League World Series. She threw a 70-mile-per-hour fastball and landed on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 13. But to understand the how, you have to look at her pitching mechanics. A 13-year-old girl doesn't throw 70 miles per hour using just arm strength. She had flawless rotational mechanics. She generated power from her legs, transferred it perfectly through her hips and core, and whipped it through her arm. It was a masterclass in kinetic chain efficiency.
The change she brought was cultural. For decades, throw like a girl was a playground insult.
Right.
Davis completely inverted that. She turned it into a massive compliment. The impact on youth is profound because it didn't just affect young girls. It challenged deep-seated gender biases in youth sports for young boys, too.
Yeah.
It forced everyone to respect the pure mechanics of the talent, regardless of gender.
Next up in the boys' clubs is golf. Annika Sorenstam. She won 90 international tournaments. She's the only woman to shoot a 59 in competition, earning the nickname Ms. 59, and she became the first woman to play in a PGA Tour event since 1945.
Sorenstam brought a level of statistical dominance that forced the global sports media to take women's golf seriously. Her how was all about driving accuracy and a robotic consistency in her swing mechanics that minimized errors over a 4-day tournament.
Yeah.
But her real impact on the youth is entirely structural.
Right, because of her Annika Foundation. She didn't just retire with her trophies, she built a pipeline. Her foundation runs global tournaments in Latin America, Europe, Asia, and Australasia. She is ensuring that girls from all backgrounds have a clear, supported, and funded pathway to the collegiate level and eventually the LPGA.
Finally, let's look.
She won Olympic gold, and she achieved the very first 8C, which is a 5.14B difficulty rating on-site by a woman. She did this on a route called Fish Eye in Spain.
Okay, an on-site. Let's explain that.
Yes, let's clarify this for you listening. In climbing, an on-site means she walked up to this insanely difficult, near impossible cliff face that she had never touched, never practiced, and had no prior knowledge of the handholds.
Which is terrifying.
It is. She simply read the rock in real time and climbed it perfectly on her very first try without falling. The grip strength and problem-solving required to do that on the fly is almost incomprehensible. So what does this all mean?
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
whether we are talking about a 13-year-old striking out boys in baseball with flawless kinetic mechanics or a climber scaling a 5.14B cliff on her first try, the meaning is exactly the same. Across all of these sports, these women guarantee that today's youth have things they never used to have.
Visibility.
Exactly. They have visibility. They have fully functioning professional leagues with actual salaries. They have massive audiences watching them on premium networks. And most importantly, they have a voice to demand their worth and protect their health.
Well, to you, our listener, thank you for coming along on this sport-by-sport journey with us. What we've seen today is that these pioneers didn't just win medals. Winning was almost the easy part. They changed the actual infrastructure, the biomechanics, and the business models of sports so the next generation could thrive without having to fight the exact same battles.
And that leaves us with a fascinating final thought. We've seen how these women elevated the standards within their specific sports, pushing the physical and structural limits. But as modern training, sports science, kinetic mapping, and sheer human will continue to evolve.
Yeah.
Will the legacy of these pioneers eventually push us to a point where the traditional gender boundaries and categories in sports are completely reimagined?
Wow. It really makes you wonder. They started out having to build the track while they were running on it. Who knows where the finish line will be when they finally finish paving it? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.